So we welcome you to the first Lunch and Learn of 2020 for the Urban Ag Council, virtual. Many of you have been to our Lunch and Learns in the past. This is a little bit different, so I hope you enjoy it as well. So many of you have your videos off, so I imagine you might be eating your lunch, but good for you. So we want to thank our sponsor, Proven Winners. They have a short video they wanted to play. And at the end of the webinar, they have a longer video as well, so you're welcome to stay in the meeting and view that as well. And so now we're here ready for our presentation, and we're really excited about this. I've been talking to Trip Jobe the last few months about this seminar, and meeting Darren today for the first time. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Glad to see everybody on here, and please, we want to make this interactive. So since it's a small group, feel free to unmute yourself if you have questions throughout. Also saw, I think it was Brian, did the little thumbs up. If there are things in there as well, you want to raise your hand or put notes out, please do. It's this is meant for you. And, it's a topic that Darren and I have passion about. So I'll give you a real quick background. Darren founded Rand Inc. 17 years ago. It's his third marketing firm that he's led, and he's worked with just about any company in Atlanta. And Darren's passion has been, let's stop the waste in marketing. How do we help businesses grow and stop the waste? My career has been more on the corporate side with Kimberly-Clark, with Oldcastle, the Belgard business for several years. And in the same vein, it was, how do we do things better? How do we not throw money away on poor ideas or poorly executed or ill-focused marketing? So that's really what we want to hit on today, and that, really go through some of the basics. We're not going to get into details about what types of social media or types of digital or search engine marketing. We're going to talk about, marketing is driving your business, and is it an expense or is it an investment? And the biggest thing I think Darren and I want to leave you with is, we don't want a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, you to look back and say, that was the biggest waste of money I ever put into something from a marketing perspective. We want to help you think through that and give you ideas about making sure marketing is helping to drive your business. So as we go through this, we'll also give you some ideas how to assess marketing pitches from firms that are out there, and also some examples and stories, try to relate it to the real life. So number one question we get is, hey, is marketing an expense or is it an investment? And a lot of people think of it as an expense, just something that they put out as a cost for a service they're getting. Reality is, done right and done well, any investment is putting money with the expectation of some benefit in the future, right? Whether you're in the stock market, whether you're, I know some of this group, if you're looking at a greenhouse, you're making a decision. All right, what would this greenhouse investment get me? All right, it'll allow me to grow and cultivate more plants throughout the year. It's going to, increase my revenues X%. And then at the end of the year, offset that with the money I put toward it, and here's my ROI. Marketing should be held the same way. It is an investment with that expectation to give you future benefits. And so that's kind of how we'll focus on it. And we think about it, the great Peter Drucker said, it's not a function. It's your business, your entire business, seen from the customer's point of view. And that's really what marketing is about, understanding your customer and developing plans around that. And so as he further said, the aim is to know and understand your customer so well that the product or service sells itself. Now, if anyone's out there with reactions, who despises being sold hard? Right? Think about some of your brands that, you know, you just go to because that brand knows you well. And that's really the essence of what Peter Drucker is trying to get across. Understand your customer so well that you're not out there selling and selling hard. Okay. You know, and here's another area that we get a lot. I had some in the last few weeks, a couple of business leaders tell me I don't need marketing, and part of it is how are they thinking of marketing? All right, where marketing truly is a process. All right, you could say it's a social process where people are getting what they need, right? And they get it in exchange. And exchange can be money, exchange can be, exchange of efforts or different products between two businesses, but they're getting what they need and understanding what's out there. Whereas advertising is truly just a marketing tactic, and that utilizes messages to promote that product or service. Much like the sponsor video, that's advertising. That's a great tactic. Looked wonderful, but it's trying to utilize messages to promote that. And I think that's the big case. And a lot of times when Darren and I dive into this discussion of someone saying, I don't need marketing, what they're really saying is, I don't need advertising. And there's really a big difference. And we kind of want to go through that. Marketing, you should always be looking at what your customers' needs are and how to reach your customers. And that's what we'll really try to dive into a lot today. All right, so you get a chance to unmute. Can anyone tell me the importance of these three numbers, 9, 19, and 53, from a business and sales perspective? Yeah, Darren, you're excluded. Anyone want to unmute and take a guess?
Not a clue.
Not a clue. All right, well, that's okay. All right, so the Corporate Executive Board, which also involves the Marketing Leadership Roundtable and Sales Leadership Roundtable, for about 10 years has really been focusing on the challenger sales. And so they do studies year after year, and they talk to buyers, right? And this is, over time, what they have found the most important criteria in making a buying decision. Only 9% is price, 19% is the overall brand, 19% is that product or service, but 53% is what the sales or marketing people are getting across in the words and messages about the brand, product, or service. So think about that. A lot of times, we'll hear from sales, oh, we lost this on price, but it might be really to understand the customer and where you were relaying a message that met that customer's need, or were you off showing and talking about something that didn't hit that customer's need whatsoever? All right. From here, I'll let Darren kind of jump in and we'll go into the next section.
Thanks, Trip. Hi again, fellows and ladies and gentlemen. Sales funnel. We've all seen it. Some people hate it. Some people like it. Thanks to people like Salesforce and then email tools like MailChimp and Marketo, they've done a great job of putting these funnels out there. That's the good news. The challenge is really the what and why of a sales funnel, and that's really what we run into a lot. Because without what and why, this doesn't really mean anything. And really what I want to talk about first is really at the top of the sales funnel is usually a shotgun, and that's the biggest challenge. Everyone's trying to hit everything with everybody and ends up hitting nobody. I talk about a lot where if we've got a client coming to us and we've got, whether it's money or time, how do you deploy that? And so the question obviously is, oh, we need to do all these things. No, do fewer things really well, and then find out what's working and what's not working, and then expand. The next thing, and Tripp just touched on it, is branding. That top of the funnel, again, everyone thinks leads, but awareness and brand, they died. And in this world that this group lives in, I know you can just see it on the roads, you can see it in your trucks, you can see it on everywhere. So actually, you all are a lot better at branding than a lot of companies and a lot of businesses. That's the good news. The challenge is, how do you take that and create leads out of those brands? But I think that's one of the things that gets missed. Everybody wants to be Apple, but it takes a long time to do that. But the top of that funnel is about brand awareness, brand equity, etc. The next thing, though, is the what's happening. And as Tripp said earlier, there's a huge passion. I think there's a dearth of this in the world of marketing for measurement and understanding. And it's not anybody's fault except for marketers. And they're going to go, wait a minute, you just bashed marketing. Yes. The reason is that whether it's Google or Facebook or Pinterest or some sign company or radio station or direct mail company, everybody is bashing you with, we can deliver leads and revenue to you. And they're all going to tell you they can. It doesn't mean that none of them work. It doesn't mean they all work. But what it does mean is that they really don't care that much about you as much as they care about selling something. Nothing wrong with selling something. But what that means is, to get the information, you need to understand the quality of leads, the cost per lead, the conversion of leads, and all those sorts of things on a regular basis, whether it's weekly or monthly, so that you're able to go and say, okay, with this campaign or this group of tactics, I can see it's working or not working. So, and you know, given the environment we're in right now, a lot of people said, well, let's cut. Xerox grew, Amazon grew, other companies have grown during these times. Just, you know, listening to what's going on in friends that are in the market. As I was saying to Mary Kay, I've been here a long time. So from what I understand, good for this industry. Thank goodness for this industry is doing well. But, you know, people are still trying to squeeze as much out of their overhead as possible. And if you do it, it's dangerous, because a lot of times the reason it's done is not out of lack of knowing that marketing is needed, but it's for frustration. Everyone here is a mid-market business. These are all really well-run businesses because of what you do. And the reality is you probably like marketing to function the same way you run and operate for your clients. It can, but it's just really, really difficult because of what we were talking about earlier. If you take today's world, there are at least 12 different marketing software solutions being implemented by every company every day. 12. And they're not talking to each other. And so you're probably seeing that and feeling it and experiencing it. And so what happens is that because of the frustration and revenue does well, all of a sudden the idea is, well, if I'm not getting anything from it, let me just shut it down. That's not the right answer. That's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or cutting your nose off to spite your face, or pick another million idioms for it. But the understanding of why people want to cut it, and Tripp, when we've known each other for years, but I've told him many stories where we've gone into companies and actually cut budgets, and people say, I thought you were a marketer. And we'd say, well, yes, we are marketers, but we look at marketing as an asset. And if it's not working, get rid of it, put that money in the bank until you're ready to use it, and make sure that you build a visible foundation that allows you to understand the beauty of your business. If the lawn looks beautiful, or landscape looks beautiful, or something looks beautiful, there's evidence. My wife's got a huge green thumb. Those hydrangeas on the front, I've already got to figure out where to get them because she loves hydrangeas. But you guys see the evidence of good work every day. And marketing has been seen as a very whiffy, ethereal world for years, and it's the marketing world's fault. It's not the client's fault. Unfortunately, it's getting more difficult because every day something new is coming out to be the great solution, the great panacea to solving marketing. The only one is, as Drucker was talking about, as Tripp just talked about, brand and long-term effort, long-term consistent effort.
Yep. No, it's great points, and we'll show a couple examples that Darren mentioned later on with where we've even said to cut back on marketing. Here's a quick slide and story that I just used recently. Again, I was told, hey, I don't need marketing, and wanted to put it in a different perspective of what needs are. And a lot of us say, well, I need 3 meals a day and I need food. In reality, we have one need, all right? One immediate need, and that's oxygen, all right? We have one kind of secondary need. We can go days, and I think, in extreme conditions, people have gone maybe up to a week without water. We can go a month without food. I mean, I did 3 days during Outward Bound years ago, and learned like, wow, as long as I had water, I could live without food. Junk food, I wish I could say, it's that, I guess, urge and versus need, but, we really don't need it. It's how long can we put away the Krispy Kreme donuts and not jump into junk food. But put it in perspective of your business. Customers are your oxygen. Let's all face it. Without customers, you're gone within a few days. Without employees or cutting back, as Darren was mentioning, we know you've got to cut back here and there, but at a certain point, you cut back too far for too long, and it starts to hinder other organs. Marketing to that over time message that Darren was just mentioning, you can hold off. Look, and we're the ones to say right now, if you don't have a solid plan, save that money, right? Develop the solid plan and then come back. But marketing is the nutritional food that your business needs, just like our body needs to grow. Now, the junk advertising, the misplaced, the poor targets, those type of things, that's what we can live without. But sometimes we succumb to, because just like that fresh and hot light at Krispy Kreme, it looks and smells so good, right? So
step back from the ledge. Step back from the ledge. This one, I thought this would be fun to put out there because, in every business, someone could come and say, hey, I love that yard. We're in Brookhaven and there's some beautiful yards here. So I'm sure some of you all have dealt with a lot of them. And at the end of the day, someone's going to say, what's going to cost? Well, that's like saying, well, tell me what you want to do with your yard or your landscape or your pool or whatever you want to do. But at least the first thing is to understand and set some kind of a baseline about what you're trying to do. Again, a rising tide lifts all ships. That's good. It's good for everything. But there's still competition for whether it's DIY, whether it's somebody new, whether it's someone that's rolling somebody up, all those sorts of things. So, the biggest thing that we talk about is how to make a really good decision in that investment. And then from there, then you decide how much to spend. So obviously if you've got a lot of competition, obviously there is a lot of competition in the space, that's going to require more marketing. And depending on the brand awareness, that's going to do. So depends on what you want to do relative to the market. I also think that when you have situations like economies that are in a little bit of a challenge right now, the cream rises to the top. And so again, there are opportunities now for those of you who are here, and I'm sure that, again, looking at the member list, there are some great companies, a lot of great companies, and you see the trucks and you see everything out there and you see the people and you see the lawn signs. And so, there are advantages to what you all are doing, and you can grow and take advantage of the people that aren't marketing. On the right-hand side, though, is just a real, I say simple, but it may not look simple. So I'm going to try to simplify it. there's an inverse relationship to time and spend, is what this is saying. On the left-hand side, if you look at the top line near the top green, this is just one example of a marketing tactic. Google AdWords. I hate it. I loathe it. And I know a lot of you all use it. My point is just be careful of it. The only people winning is Google. And if anybody has not seen The Social Dilemma, I didn't have anything to do with it, but you gotta watch it and you'll see what I mean. It doesn't mean that it's not a tactic that should be used. It just means it's a tactic that is, again, not the be all end all because of the way it functions. They're winning more than anybody else. And as you build your brand, then eventually the organic grows and the amount per click and the amount, per lead that's coming through Google will decrease. So we talk about it in different layers, air cover and then tactics. And as you build your brand, what you want is people coming in and looking for, XYZ service, PDQ service. It's actually more of a bottom of the funnel tactic than it is a top of the funnel tactic. They don't know that, but that is the reality of how it really functions, both statistically and effectively. This is just a real quick vision. And what happens if you turn off marketing? On the right-hand side, this is a research project. This was a big insurance company. You don't feel it immediately, but back to this whole brand conversation. At 6 months, this company started losing a lot of its impact because it went dark. And you'll see that. And what happens is you kind of get this whipsaw effect. And, one of the things we see is even if you could, and you see this with some folks in your all's industry, how do you cross-sell or upsell or have an ancillary thing so you stay top of mind in your clients' minds, in your customers' minds? And you may look at it and say, well, I can't make any money on it. But you know what? That's where, from a marketing perspective, if it's paying for itself during your slow times, then you know what? That's okay, because you're actually staying out there, you're staying interesting. But going dark completely is just dangerous. You got to prime the pump again, and eventually someone's going to take your share when you eventually go dark. And that what that leads to is, this is just in our world. People are marketing in our world. I'm sure a lot of you all are getting calls every day, and the people who are marketing are winning. The people who aren't are not winning. So again, as I said, Xerox, Amazon, even Apple. We'll look at Microsoft now. Whether you're an Apple or Microsoft person, it doesn't matter. But the advantages in times like now, when others in a particular market get quiet, is that your costs can go down, your opportunities can go up. And I know, again, we hear it. Trips, as he's talking about, we talk to people all the time. People say they don't have the money. It's not they don't have the money, it's that they're afraid to spend it. And that fear is absolutely paralyzing. We get it, we hear you, because there are no guarantees, but there are a lot more objective and statistical approaches to marketing that can be employed, especially during times like this, that will not put the fear of everything into what you're doing to make that decision.
So from that perspective, if you truly don't feel you have funds right now, what do I do? All right, so that's another question that we get. And the first thing I would say is, are you talking to your current customers? All right, pick up the phone. All right, talk to your past customers. Do you have a good mailing list and a database? More than anything, reach out, let your customers or your past customers know you're still in business. All right. Homegrown email. You know, we're talking with a client right now that kind of turned their email list over to their agencies, not sure what's going out and what's being said or what the status is. You should always own your mailing list, your customer list. And you want to make sure wherever you're working, whoever you're working with, that you own those lists, you're on those lists. That right now, if you truly don't have a lot of money, that's the first place you want to start, right? And then the last piece to throw out there is, you know, social media. And as Darren can go on and on, we have to be careful. The point is, have a purpose. Don't just go out and post. Don't just go out and try to be all over the place. Have a purpose, but be active, right? Look at your metrics. Look at what's going on with your social media. You know, are you increasing followers? Are you getting engagement? You know, are you highlighting your employees, your customers, et cetera? Have a plan. I mean, but those are, if you truly don't have money to spend right now, which we get, those are the three things we would tell you to probably focus on more than any others. With that, I must pause for a second, Mary Kay, just to see if anyone's got any questions. I want to make sure we're giving people the opportunity to ask away of anything we've covered or not covered yet.
Well, I know that Christian had sent me a note that he was somewhere where he couldn't ask questions, but he is paying attention.
All right.
But I have a question because you were talking about Google Ads. Beware. I mean, why beware? What do you worry about?
So the way that Google works is very algorithmic, obviously. It is a stock market for words. That is at its absolute core. That's what it is. And so the way, I'll just give you a simple example of a client we're working with right now. So he says to me, we spent $33,000 in a month on an AdWords campaign. I said, you did what? We have a very large multinational client. They don't even spend $33,000. AdWords by itself is not a solution. Period. Done. End of story. AdWords as a component of a solution or a campaign is. Think about Build a Smarter Planet with IBM. You know, they own that vanity URL, right? So it's not that Google is not a part of a campaign. It's just that the folks that are out there proposing plans to most people are getting paid a lot of money to do it. They are usually siloed from the rest of your organization because they're essentially media buyers. And you can tell I have a very definite disdain for this whole world because they're looking at, I think, not saying, you know, Darren and Tripp and Mary Kay, but we, the media buyer, and again, no offense to younger folks, think that the only way to get clients is social media and Google. BS. It's just complete and utter BS. So, you know, think about it this way. Let's go to, someone looks up lawn care services, Mary Kay, right? Mm-hmm. There's probably nobody on this call that's probably not trying to buy that word. It's not getting anywhere, right? So now I'm essentially in a casino hoping they pick mine over somebody else's. Because if I go to spend more money, at a certain point, like the automobile industry, everybody's trying to buy luxury auto. And we've dealt with a lot of auto companies. And you know what they finally realized? Nobody was winning. And so what they started to do is build their brand, and say, okay, I'm going to own, you know, maybe something else, whether it's fast cars, whatever it may be. But to try to compete on saying lawn care service or hardscape service is literally a crapshoot. I mean, so we're all going to buy the words, and the only people that win are Google instead of all of us, right?
That makes a lot of sense.
We're all buying.
Yeah, that's
Does that help?
It's very
Yeah.
much, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, fantastic question. So we'll keep going, and then again, if their questions come up, or we'll definitely have time at the end. So the other one we get is, a lot of people in this business say, hey, I'm a referral business. Do I really need marketing? Again, marketing versus advertising. We say you always need marketing, but I'd look at, where are your customers? Are they as active as in the past? I know when I was at Belgard, a lot of contractors waited until after the fall shows essentially to do their business development. The weather got a little worse, and that's when they started thinking about marketing. Now, in a normal year, if they've got a backlog of 3 to 6 months business, they're able to put their marketing and their business development essentially in a 3 to 4 month window. With what's happened with COVID, the question we would ask you is, do you have the same backlog? Is your backlog shrinking? Do you have commercial clients? Because commercial may be reacting far different than residential clients. And think about this idea that we've talked about of keeping your name out there, thinking about where your customers are, and look at your markets. If you have a great referral business and you're seeing no change to your backlog, you're probably fine. But as Darren showed, with the idea of 6 months in with no advertising, if you're already seeing cracks and a little slowing down in that backlog and that engagement, you want to get ahead of it before it's too late. The worst thing in the world is to come into the season and expect to have a 4 or 5 month backlog and to have no to 1 month backlog next year.
One of the things real quickly to that, and again, looking at marketing as a game plan. I know, again, from knowing folks in the space, a lot of times staff is your biggest challenge. Good staff is a huge challenge. People in the building business that are in the, high-end home building business, I'm hearing from them that it is really tough right now. So the other thing, and we're going to talk about it a little later though, but is marketing, and Mary Kay, this kind of goes to the same thing with the Google thing. Marketing is in my opinion, and Tripp and I talk about it all the time, it is a manufacturing process. And I know that sounds like heresy from a marketer, but it needs to work in sync with everything else. You don't get to go up to a marketing firm and say, I want to order a number 3, and it comes out the next day. It just doesn't happen that way. And so because of that, the passion for helping people solve is, maybe the reason that you may be spending on a certain thing and you're not thinking you're getting enough is you may be getting calls and no one's picking up, or you may have trucks out there and the right answers aren't going to the person that comes by and says, hey, I love that client's work. So all of a sudden you get misinformation. Again, the difference in the world of hardscapes, landscapes, and all this beauty that you all do is, if it's beautiful, someone's done something right. Yeah. In our world, it's just hard to see, and that is a passion that I've been trying to work through and solve for the last 30 years. So there are some rules to it we can talk about in one of the next webinars.
And so as we talk about how to assess some of the pitches you get, or as you're out talking with firms, to Darren's point, if someone at the end of what they are talking to you about basically said, would you like fries with that? Beware, right? So.
Today, I want to share with you my 5 tips for growing hydrangeas in the South. If you can't tell, I've got a little bit of twang in my accent and a lot of experience in growing plants in the Deep South. The first tip I'm going to give you is to make sure you have the right hydrangea. There's tons and tons of hydrangeas on the market. 3 main classes: Hydrangea macrophylla, or the big leaf hydrangea. They're going to have those big pom-pom florist cuts that you're used to seeing in the grocery store. Then we've got Hydrangea arborescens, which are going to be a native hydrangea to the US. And then lastly, We've got hydrangea paniculata, or the panicled hydrangea. This is the hydrangea that you want to grow in the South. It is going to give you the best success. Some of the plants I want you to look out for, this one right here, limelight hydrangea. It's going to get big for you and have these huge panicles. Little lime hydrangea. Next, our newest one, little lime punch. It's going to give you this awesome green flower that is going to age into various different colors of pink. It is stunning in the landscape. Unfortunately, in the South, we're not going to get that huge punch of pink flowers, but you are going to get some pink coloration, better than most in the market. One of the biggest complaints I get from growers in the South is that their panicle hydrangea died. Well, we can do a few extra things to make sure that it survives. So my next tip is to plant it in the right place. So we started with the right plant, now we're at the right place. In the South, we want to plant our hydrangeas in the shade. As much shade as you can give them. They're still going to flower beautifully for you, but they're going to not fry like they do in the full sun. So where I want you to look for places on the east side of your house or on the north side. These locations are going to be protected from our afternoon sun. These hydrangeas look gorgeous, but we're here in Michigan. It's August, I'm not even sweating. So they're perfectly adapted here, but if you just change it a little bit and give them a little cooler temperatures, they'll be good in the South. One of the things that I always hear is people want to amend their potting hole where they're digging their plant. This can be good and bad for a lot of different reasons. The main reason that it's bad is that people are doing this in clay soils. So for my next tip, I don't want you to amend that soil. We're gonna mulch heavily. And if you've got a heavy clay soil, if you'll just plant a couple of inches high, so right where that soil level is in the pot, plant it a couple of inches higher in your hole. You can mound the soil up around the edges and then give it a nice layer of 2 to 3 inches of either shredded pine bark or pine straw. This is going to keep those roots nice and cool. Another problem southern growers have, they overwater. Okay, so everybody's been out to their grandmother's house, this nice row of hydrangeas. They look beautiful in the morning, but you go out at 5 o'clock and they are wilting. They're just shriveling up. Don't freak out. God gave us a really good moisture meter, so stick your finger just a couple of inches into the soil. If you feel that it's moist, they don't need any irrigation. If you go out there with your water hose and spray down the plant, it's not going to draw up water as quickly from the soil, and so then it's actually going to take it longer to rehydrate. Give it a night, come back in the morning, it'll be nice and fluffed back out, ready to go. So again, don't overwater. Use your finger, it's super easy. We don't have to buy any fancy instruments. Just get down there and see if your soil's wet. My last tip, hydrangea paniculata can actually be pruned pretty hard. Just do it when they're dormant in the winter. Wait till all the leaves fall off, say January or February. Come out, you can remove anywhere from 1/2 to 1/3 of the plant just to keep it in check, because as we can see, limelight's pretty big. So if you want to keep it in the 4-foot range, it is very possible. You just have to get out with some hedge trimmers and knock them down. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've learned some good tips to make you successful at growing hydrangea paniculata in the South. Make sure you look for our Proven Winners product in that white and black pot. We really want you to go try Little Lime Punch. I know you're going to be excited. If you have any questions, make sure you go to provenwinners.com/feedback.
That number 3. So ultimately, they need to come to you and understand your clients, who you are, where they are, and why they buy. Right? And that's what we've been talking about. And so it's not about the tactic, it's not about the latest fad, it's about understanding your clients, your similar prospects, adjacent markets if you're ready to go out there, and in very few cases to unrelated or unqualified leads. So you can use your reaction button, but have you ever been pitched or heard any of these sayings, these quotes out here? All right. I can double the number of your leads, reduce your cost per lead, search engine marketing's growing. All right. All of these are all of these are facts. Right? Oh, Mary Kay, I think you're muted, but if
You're getting reactions. Yes.
yes, all right. So
You hear these every day.
Yeah.
these are facts, and the great way I'd put it is looking on the zone map. These would be like, you know, those of you who are growers out there, if you put a fact about zone 8 to someone who's in zone 4, it's meaningless. You've got a completely different client in Wisconsin than you do in Georgia. And that's where a lot of the problem comes is, hey, search engine marketing is growing. You already heard some of Darren's perspective. Is your business, are your target customers going to be going through search engine marketing to find you? Same with Facebook. One of our clients, you know, we keep kind of slapping them every 6 to 12 months. They start doing Facebook posts again, paid Facebook post. Organic is fine, but it's not their target market. They don't get anything for it. So think about taking it back to who your core customers are and then your similar prospects. So with that, Darren, we'll kind of run into some examples.
Go ahead. Let's just skip to the next page. We'll go to the next one. So, and I'm going to use this one as well as this other client we work with. And again, this is a luxury client. Regardless, the other one's a big multinational. Regardless of the client, again, the process. Again, let me kind of back up one quick second. Everyone makes marketing sound like it's some tough thing. A lot of it is common sense. I want to reiterate that. It's a lot of common sense. And again, Tripp hears me all. It is the marketer's world and the marketer's fault that everybody that is getting served gets frustrated. It's just that simple. And the industry has been set up in a way that it is really not in the best interest of clients. The way that the industry was set up is people make money and commission based on what they sell, media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of inverse.
It's much like stockbrokers of 20 years ago. Darren and I like to talk about being fiduciaries, but think about 15 years ago, before wealth management firms, before the internet and online trading. Hey, the only one who ever won was the stockbroker, because guess what? As long as you traded, you got a commission. Didn't matter what your performance was.
So this one real quickly is these guys, I got two of them. These guys were spending $20,000 a month. Yes, $20,000 a month on AdWords. And I'm talking to the owner, and I said, well, how is that performing? Not very well. Maybe 1 out of the 20 that gets served up gets clicked, and then maybe 1 out of the 20 of those we close. I said, you're gotta be kidding me. That's like $2,000 or $3,000 per lead. And I cut it in half first day. He said, what? I said, we're cutting it in half. What are you gonna do with it? First, we're gonna just put it in the bank. We're not gonna do anything with it right now. Why not? Because there's no place to put it. We don't know what's going on yet. We need to understand the customer. We need to fix the website. We need to do all these things. Okay, panic, just trust us. All right, so we took this and we reallocated it to a much better website, a much better communications and messaging. We used a lot of content. We did a massive email campaign. We cleaned up the database, and then we cut it in half again. And they said, wait a minute, whoa. I said, well, let's just look at the numbers. So by the time we were done, I guess we ended up falling from about 20 to about 7,500 is where we ended up. And we increased sales by 38%. Deals closed increased by 24% on 25% fewer leads. So think about, this is a really key point that I was talking about earlier. Again, all of the companies on the phone, passion, you have to have passion to be in the industry y'all are in. And that's why you succeed. But what's probably frustrating is when you waste time. And so the ability to spend good time is much more. I mean, I always talk about I would much prefer to see somebody spend $10 per lead than $1 per lead. Get better $10 leads than a lot of dollar leads. So just a quick food for thought. And then we'll go to this next one. So Tripp was talking about, so I'm going to give you another number. Tripp gave you the 53, and I raised my hand. He didn't let me do it, but that's okay. So this one you can write down as well. It's called the 1-9-90 rule. So if you want to go look it up, and what that means is, and this, again, little soapbox here, we would all love to be able, I wouldn't want to pay the Kardashians, but the bottom line is we'd love to be able to pay $20,000 or $50,000 for somebody to post for us. The reality of it is this: if out of 100,000 people they say they control, 100,000 or a million, doesn't matter, 10 million, 1% of those people are the true followers of that brand. 9% are lurkers. They're there, but they're not engaged. And the other 90% are crap. They're very uninvolved. Think about how a lot of these influencers got started in the early days. And again, this is as much as I have a disdain for a lot of these online and digital players, they're trying to clean up the act, but you could do link farms and all these sorts of things that you could do so you could build up the amount of people you said you could influence. I'd do the same. Well, I wouldn't. Tripp and I know I wouldn't do the same. We wouldn't do the same thing. But the reality is that's how it got going. Okay. And so just be careful with influencers. Look at Nextdoor. Look at a lot of these things that happen, and they start out as these wonderful organic tools that I'm sure everybody here who has the ability to get involved gets involved with. But sooner or later, capitalism, no problem with that, and a little bit of the craziness that happened gets involved, in those great tools where you got involved turn into just another place that everyone's bidding on AdWords. This is the point that Tripp talked about, and this client is the one I was saying that was doing $50,000 a month. They shut down their AdWords spend last July. We've been working with these guys for a couple of years. They had a big agency that was doing it. They were doing AdWords. Some of you guys may have heard of the word programmatic buying. All of that stuff fits in the same world. The beauty of it is you can see it now. Understanding it, that's a different story. And the other thing, another little kind of statistic is, even though programmatic and AdWords sell the way they do, if people go and look, okay, and what I mean by that, look and ask somebody who's trying to sell you something 2 or 3 basic questions. Number one, how many impressions am I getting? Okay, what's the time frame? How many impressions am I getting? Number two, what is your historical click-through rate for people in my category, or maybe not my category? And then number 3 is, once those folks get it, what's the conversion rate? Because again, with bots and all these things, you all are probably hearing about it. So, you know, people will go out and say, I'm going to sell you the top of a banner, blah, 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 blah. And the next thing you know is you're spending $5,000 and you get nothing out of it. So again, this is why, you know, whether it's gun and garden, you know, whether it's, you know, again, even the ad council, things that are focused will get you spend more in the focused areas in digital, learn quickly. And what you can see here is they're learning quickly that Facebook paid ads just doesn't work. And what's also interesting is, again, this is all statistics, but again, you all are in an art and science business as well. If you look to the right, in the upper right, the statistical norm for followers is 1% growth month over month. That chart we did not manipulate one bit. we've been working with these guys for, again, a couple of years. And again, numbers just don't lie. Tree, you got to knock a tree down. So again, this is that common sense point. And I guess I'm the anti-marketer, even though I've been doing this for 30 years. I blame a lot of it on the folks that are calling on you all, because as my dad used to say, excuse the French, because he was a veterinarian, and he had a lot of if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. And so no, don't let people baffle you.
Yeah, and bring it back to numbers. And here's an example. Darren talked earlier about, I'd rather have a $10 lead than a $1 lead. And most people would go, are you crazy? So when I came into Bellegarde over at Oldcastle, early in the year that year, they had gone out and gotten a few sweepstakes. So they just created these sweepstakes. They paid for some lists. And everyone said, hey, our leads are up almost 100%. And then we started diving into it and talking to the sales team and the like. And, you know, yes, our cost per lead went down. So this is corporate. This is not even an agency doing this, right? The reality is most of these leads were people who wanted to win something or wanted to be in a drawing, and they didn't do anything for you. So, you know, the next year we focused on HGTV Dream House. We did the Philadelphia Flower Show. Garden and Gun was one of the magazines that we did. To Darren's point, we targeted, all right? So our leads went down, all right? But our opportunities went up, all right? And if you look at the cost per opportunity, all of a sudden that was what was more valuable. And the deals and the growth, I think it was about 14% growth that second year in our business. That's really what's key. Please don't fall for cost per lead, because you need to understand, is that lead quality at all? All right. And then kind of to the last two slides to wrap up, Darren hit it. I mean, this is exactly the point we try to make. Marketing is a part of your business and your business strategy. It needs to coexist. It needs to communicate. It needs to work with your operations team, with finance, with sales. It all has to come together. All right. You should not be out in a silo. It really has to be a part of your overall business, and you're working together. And if it's not, then it's what some people refer to as sales support. And that's really not driving your business forward. So that's both of our passions. I used to, when I was in the corporate side, used to talk about it. Look, I will not be in a silo. We're part of a wheel. We can decide who really thinks they're the hub of the wheel, but the reality is we're part of the wheel, and we're all in this together. So in summary, think about the difference between marketing and advertising. We truly believe every business needs marketing. You need to understand your customers. You need to assess not only your current, but your target customers and potential customers. Think about that rule of 53, as well as Darren's rule of 1, 9, and 90. All right. Understand those messages that you're delivering. All right. There are smart investments in marketing out there, but it is better to wait. If you're not sure right now, take that money. We get it. It's tough with COVID. Stick it in the bank for a month or two. Assess your business, your target customers, hold that money and get a solid plan, and then move forward with it versus just, pissing money away. I mean, because that's what it is. And there will be winners and losers in these markets. There always is. Anytime there's turbulency is a chance to make greater share gain. So with that, I know we've got 2 sessions, Mary Kay, lined up, one each month. The next one, we'll talk a little bit about measurements and what metrics you should be thinking about and how to look at metrics in your business. And then on the third one in November, we're talking about common traps and how to avoid them. So we're excited and looking forward to that. Let me open it up. Any other questions from the group?
It's a quiet group.
Well,
I have a gentleman here. I have a question. Maybe this is a question you can answer or not. What would be your guesstimate on a percentage of investment that you would apply toward marketing per year of revenue?
Fantastic question.
Let-
Darren, I'll let you go.
Let me, the standard book answer is 10 to 20%. We have a software application that I built for 10 years, and Tripp and I have talked about this with many people. So if you were going to just stick a number and peg it, you'd put 10 to 20%. However, and I don't want to make everything sound like it's got to have a caveat. If you are a brand that is in growth mode, you probably need to take that, whatever your baseline is, and increase it 30 to 50%. Let's just take a $10 million company, $1 million of marketing, and now all of a sudden you're in growth mode. And the goal is to go to $12 million. You don't just get to go $1.2 million for marketing, because now you're in growth mode. And so you're going to need to increase the volume and the velocity of your messaging in growth mode. And then that other question, that also goes to the competition. The more highly competitive in some industries, technology is upwards of 25 to 30%. But I would say, because given the overhead costs in an industry like this, I'd probably peg it somewhere between 10 to 15. Again, in growth mode, you'd have to go higher.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, it's a super question. I think the key, and hopefully you've heard too, is don't just set a number and stay at that number. You always look at it, what you're getting for it. I've come into businesses that say, well, yeah, we're going to spend X percent of our revenue. And to Darren's point, there may be years it doesn't make sense to do that. What's the strategy? And, because what happens sometimes, if you set a percentage, you get complacent and you're not really challenging those norms and assumptions out there.
The metrics conversation, folks, is I think going to be a really good help to even that question. One of the things that Tripp and I talked about was when he was an executive in his old companies, is that people would give him 20 or 30 different measurements, and those aren't measurements. That's just a bunch of information. And so marketing planning and budgeting should absolutely align with the business goals you set. And it sounds basic, but I'm sure, and maybe you can get a hand raise on this one. How many people here do their marketing plan and reverse engineer it based on a budget? In other words, I have X percent, or I get more my company, or it's my company, and here's the budget I'm going to spend on marketing. And the way that I build that plan is I'm going to fill up that budget. Versus, let's just say, how many people do it that way? Marketing plan equals budget. Yep.
And trust me, many companies are out there taking that plan. You're not alone.
You're not alone. I've literally sat in a meeting with Fortune 500 companies, and I sat in one actually here in Atlanta that was, let's just say, a large supply chain, enterprise supply chain software company. No kidding, no exaggeration. The chief marketing officer said, here's how we do our marketing plans. We get our budgets, and he shows us the budget. He says, we get it approved, and he went like this. He stuck it, and he made the mark as if he put it in the drawer, and he said, we pull it back out next year and update it. Yeah. And folks, sure. So it's as Tripp has said, this is a passion that we have. Obviously, you can tell that I have it. I think it's just something that it's solvable. It just it's again, I keep saying it's the marketing world's challenge to do a better job for folks like you. I think that what's going to happen right now is that people are starting to look at these kinds of things and going, you know what, I'm not going to just do it as a budget. I'm going to make sure it aligns and go for that. But again, when we get into the metrics, I think you guys will see a lot of interesting ways that you can begin to align marketing budgets and where you want to set them.
Yeah, we'll add that to it, and that gets into the zero-based budgeting concept. But other questions? I know we're coming up at 12:30, but
well, Jim, you have another question?
Well, I just want to thank you. This is a great, Mary Kay, thanks for setting this up. As Dirty Harry says, a man's got to know limitations. Marketing is one of mine.
That's
well, and I will offer, I mean, Darren and I are happy to have any conversation if you just want to bounce something off of us. I'm passionate. I spent, like I said, about 3 years with Oldcastle and somewhat in your business. Darren has a passion for marketing and helping businesses grow, and so do I. I'm actually having a lot of fun now that I'm on this side of the business instead of on the corporate side. And so we're here. Call us. You can reach out. Email is here. Go to our website. We do now a monthly newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter, no cost. We try to give ideas out there as well. So we're here to help, and hopefully you found it valuable. And again, our goal is, like I said at the beginning, we don't want you a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now to go, boy, I just wasted a big ton of money. So.
Well, we'll make this video or this Zoom call, we'll make it into a video and make it available on our website. And I know y'all shared the PowerPoint PDF that we'll send out. So we have all that available as well. And this is great. Lots to think about. I know that there'll be a lot of folks watching this that weren't on the call live today.
That's the other thing I remember from the Belgard days is the weather is gorgeous in Atlanta today, and a lot of people have to make hay, and I get it. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad you recorded it, and happy and look forward to November. Not that I want bad weather, but maybe we'll get a little bit of cold snap on the day of the November event.
Well, don't forget October too.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Thank you guys very much.